Before we begin this essay, let me start by saying, you're not wrong. Well, you might be. I don't know. I can't read your mind. I'm not here to invalidate your feelings, whatever they may be concerning the highly controversial 2020 sequel to video game royalty. There are a lot of people with passionate opinions on this matter, and I fully know that even dipping my toes into this maelstrom is akin to staring the internet's hornet's nest and other mixed metaphors. So before we go any further, I want to state that I'm not here to tell you that your opinion is dumb. I'm not here to tell you that you just don't get it. Perhaps you got it, as the game is not that subtle with its themes. The purpose of this essay is to merely illuminate my own opinion on that matter, why I truly believe that Joel is the real villain of this series and Abby is the closest designation the game has for a hero. Yeah, we're going to disable comments on this one. But before we delve into that, we need some background on the matter. Video game developer Naughty Dog had tremendous success with its Uncharted series of games, a grand spectacle of action-adventure that gets the player to feel like you're a swashbuckling Indiana Jones. In 2009, it began developing a new IP that would be very different from their previous hits. Creative director Neil Druckmann had the concept of a zombie survival game since he attended college. The end result would be 2013's The Last of Us, a narrative-rich post-apocalyptic zombie action thriller that made huge use of stealth, resource salvaging, and good old plain teamwork. However, what made the game really special was its central relationship between its two main characters. Joel, who was a hardened middle-aged smuggler attempting to transport Ellie, a teenager with attitude.
Recruit a team of teenagers with attitude.
The twist is that Ellie is immune from zombie bites and might be the key to mankind developing a potential cure. The father-daughter relationship that forms between the two is deeply moving and wonderfully engaging. It was so much more than just another zombie survival game. It won numerous accolades from critics, and as of 2020, it had sold over 20 million copies across 2 generations of consoles and has since been remastered for a third. It became one of the quintessential games that helped define what the medium can achieve. Impressed enough people in Hollywood that it's developed into a hit Emmy-winning HBO series in 2023, dispelling the long-standing assumption that video games cannot make good movies or shows. Well, when most of the other comparisons are you bull movies, that's like saying McDonald's can't make you a fine steak dinner. My guy, he was never equipped for that mission.
What is the audience now thinking after the beginning? They think another dumb teenage slasher movie. And it is exactly the way the movie goes.
Regardless, The Last of Us is a sensational work of art. Then the sequel came out after several delays in the summer of COVID 2020. Man, well,
everyone loses their minds.
Druckmann returned as head creative developer, co-writing with Haley Gross. To say the sequel is hotly anticipated by millions is an understatement. In many ways, it was never going to live up to inflated expectations from the success of the first game. Druckmann and his team also made some very deliberate choices that wouldn't just upset their fanbase but put them in rage spirals. The kind of rage where the lyrics to poet Frederick Durst became a livid reality.
Break your breaking face tonight. Give me something to break.
They knew what the response would be, and they did it to make a point. Look, in order for us to continue, we're going to have to address some significant spoilers for both The Last of Us games. So if you haven't played both games, well, this is your warning. In the first game, you play as Joel, and you live through his trauma, losing his daughter in the opening prologue, and understanding why his heart would have grown hard. Over the course of the game, 16 or so hours, grouchy Joel becomes attached to Ellie. At first, he views her as simply as a mission, as human cargo that won't ever shut up. A nuisance. But after the course of several close calls, Joel sees Ellie as very much a surrogate daughter. The climax of the game involves a fateful decision from Joel. He does indeed fulfill his mission and get Ellie to the Firefly Run Hospital in Salt Lake City. They're astounded with the blunt force of sudden hope. A cure seems not just possible, not just achievable, but achievable in this lifetime. Hundreds of thousands, if not millions, could be spared. Problem is that in order to make this cure, Ellie will have to die. She would not survive the surgery to remove her brain tumor to replicate a cure. So the question becomes one of sacrifice, one that Joel is unwilling to make. He's not going to lose another daughter. So he murders his way through the hospital, killing the lead surgeon and rescuing Ellie, as well as dooming all of humanity. Joel lies to Ellie that nothing could have been done. We're closely analyzing her ambiguous response, and then we get
Okay.
credits. Beautiful. Masterpiece. Exact right ending for a game that challenges our perceptions. But here's the thing though. This mission completely makes sense for Joel and for the player. There's a pretty clear reason why this game makes you play as Joel's daughter, Sarah, when the world is first breaking down. Developers wanted you to feel the same gut punch that Joel does when he feels when his little girl dies in his arms. It's heartbreaking and awful. He, and by extension us, never want to go through something like that ever again. Over the course of those 16 hours, you also come to fall in love with Ellie, and especially what she brings out of Joel. We are watching this broken man begin to heal, and then the game says we have to give that all up for the greater good? Who gives a flip about the greater good?
I'm the greatest good you are ever gonna get!
Well, those hypothetical millions in this universe don't mean anything to us. They aren't real to us. The only person who matters is Ellie. And if we have to mow down hallway after hallway of nameless fireflies, then that's what needs to be done. We will stop at nothing to save this one girl. In the game, you're completely on board with Joel's decision. Even the developer and lead writer of the HBO series says that he and any other parent would make that same decision. When the choice is your child or the world, most of us choose the selfish option because we're only human. It's what you do for love. Joel makes the right decision for him. However, if you're any other character in this universe, then Joel has become the world's greatest villain. That's one aspect I think is genius about the game. That it has, unbeknownst to you, proved essentially the sympathetic backstory for one of history's greatest villains. Joel is responsible for mankind losing its chance at a cure.
That the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few.
Decades ago, millions were dying and affected by polio, but we didn't hear about it as much now because Joel Salk developed a vaccine and then, in a complete break from modern era capitalism, gave it to the world for free. The lives of millions improved dramatically.
Well, duh.
Now imagine someone killed Jonas Salk in his lab because this assailant wanted the test subject to live. The life of one to save millions seems like a far more obvious and beneficial equation if you're not personally attached to that one.
Because the needs of the one outweigh the needs of the many.
Dirkman has gone on the record in interviews for the TV show's second season and confirmed that the Fireflies would have been able to successfully engineer a zombie cure. So there goes the saving grace of doubt whether Ellie's sacrifice would have even worked. The Last of Us Part 1 is a sneaky narrative experience. It makes you sympathize with the bad guy. It makes you understand his motivations for making a selfish choice that dooms the world. It's similar to other movie backstories of famous villains like Darth Vader and the Joker. We can see ourselves in aspect of these characters who become evil, and it's illuminating and horrifying. George Lucas gave us Anakin Skywalker going to the dark side in order to save his beloved Padme. But that motivation doesn't cancel out all the galaxy-wide genocide and planet destruction. The people of Alderaan weren't saying, "Aw, poor guy. We deserve to be blown up rather than you be sad. We forgive you." Just because you like Joel and just because you would make his same choice doesn't take away from the reality that Joel is the villain for the rest of the world who has to live with his dire consequences. That's where the second game comes in, because it's meant to directly dwell in the consequences of Joel's choice. It forces the player to question their biases. If I had to distill The Last of Us Part 2 into a single significant theme, it's not the self-destruction nature of vengeance, it's the danger of tribalism. Tribalism breaks down a complicated world into a very simple dichotomy: us and them. What happened to us is important. What happens to them is not. They aren't us. But more on that later. Let's look at things from Abby's point of view. As a teenager, she was living with the Fireflies and found a stable community in a perilous world of instability. Abby's father is a skilled surgeon, and he has startling news. A young girl presents the possibility of a zombie cure. The world seems about to change, and to go back to some semblance of life before the outbreak. Then a man shoots her father in the head, kills dozens of Fireflies, and runs off. And just like that, Abby's world has been obliterated. Not only her world, but her future and everyone else's future. All because of one extremely violent and extremely selfish person. From this perspective, Abby is owed her vengeance as much as any other character seeking retribution from their family's killer. Note, in the first game, you don't actually have to kill the surgeon, and I did it in my playthrough. The second game makes his death canon. Sorry, Abby, but I never shot your dad.
Wasn't me.
Literature is rife with tales of vengeance. The Count of Monte Cristo, Edward Dantes, wrongfully imprisoned, boom, get that vengeance. True Grit, Manny Ross's daddy murdered, boom, hire that posse, get that vengeance, girl. John Wick, one dead dog, boom, thousands of dead guys. Revenge is a storytelling formula that just works. There's wrongs to be righted and a sense of satisfaction watching bad people get their just desserts. It just gets more complicated when you have to decide who the bad people are. This is where The Last of Us Part 2 begins to challenge its players. It wants your introduction to Abby to be some interloper, a stranger who comes out of nowhere to savagely beat the character you love, the character loved by the other character you loved, the character you played for 16 hours and through tragedy and triumph. It wants your initial impression of her to be consumed by hatred and outrage so that you, like Ellie, are completely animated by your thirst for vengeance. You want Abby to die a slow and painful death, along with every one of her friends who helped her. The developers want you to adopt Ellie's perspective as you control her, journaling to Seattle and creating chaos and carnage over the course of 3 tumultuous days. And then, just as Ellie is finally about to confront Abby, the person she's been desperate to find, cuts to black. And now you are Abby.
Yes, it's real. Yes. You're gonna play the next 10 hour...
For the next 10 hours or so, you have to play as the character you hate the most. You not only have to replay those 3 days in Seattle, but several flashbacks and traumatic dreams from Abby's perspective. Getting far more context for this character you only knew as a murderous stranger. The developers could have introduced Abby's side of the story much earlier. They could have threaded her story with Ellie's, trading off level after level as each. But they didn't. Just as abrupt as Abby killing Joel. Now you're the character who killed Joel. You're responsible for keeping her alive. This is a very alienating decision that Druckmann must have known would frustrate players, many of whom might be unwilling to ever accept contemplating this character's side after that devastating introduction. It's also a deliberate choice. I see it as the developers want you to start in the middle of your rage spiral and have you find your way out to possible reflection. You're drunk on rage and now it's a process of getting you to put down the bottle, so to speak. It wants you to recognize the accelerating cost of vengeance, how self-defeating it can be, how empty it can be, and how it only creates more tragedy and more grief and more calls for vengeance. It's a perpetual cycle demanding more sacrifice and blood, unless you break from the cycle. The Last of Us Part 2 has 2 main characters as intentional mirrors of each other. Ellie and Abby are similar in age. Both are motivated by having their father or father figure cruelly murdered. They both feel wrong and seek retribution. They are on the same path, except Abby and Ellie take very different turns. First you place Ellie, and I liken it to the rage balloon slowly releasing the hot air holding it together. The game seems to be asking, is it still worth it? Whether it's killing dogs, potentially activating 100 future John Wicks, or hitting button commands to bludgeon Nora to death with a pipe, or stabbing and killing a pregnant woman, The game is looking you straight in the face and saying, "Had enough yet?" By the very end of the game, when Ellie and Abby fight for the final time, I was sick to my stomach. I didn't want either side to die. I just wanted the whole thing to finally stop. I wanted the cycle to end.
Stop! He's already dead.
Abby is able to break free from the cycle of vengeance. Ellie cannot. And because of her inability to move on, she loses everything and everyone that matters to her. That is her final tragedy. So here's why I believe that Abby is the hero of the franchise. As mentioned earlier, she's a woman whose life was ripped away by a bad man. She dedicates herself to seeking vengeance, joining a paramilitary group, and literally turning her body into a living weapon of strength. She gets her friends involved, finds Joel, brutally kills him, but lets Ellie and Tommy live because her vendetta was only against one man. Afterwards, she's troubled and not finding the release she was anticipating after finally taking out her father's killer. She's questioning her assumptions and allegiances. She's starting to look more deeply into the nature of tribalism. She's beginning to break free from the comfort of seeing the world in black and white. The world isn't just us's versus them's. Abby is saved by two Seraphite teens, Lev and Yara. Characters that should be her mortal enemies considering the battle lines. Abby has been absorbed into an ongoing conflict between her unit, the Wolf, and a religious cult, the Seraphites, or Scars, as their nickname for a self-mutilating induction ritual. Both sides have been ambushing and killing one another for years, always justifying the next act of violence with the last score needing settling. These two should be her enemy, and yet they save her. Abby keeps to them, becoming their protector. Over the hours, Abby stops seeing them as filthy scars and starts seeing them as actual people, as Lev and Yara. Storytelling is an exercise in empathy, and video games excel at this. They directly put you into the shoes of a character that you must guide. Through the 10 or so hours as Abby, I not only better understood her as a character, I found her to be the real hero of the game when you take a larger perspective. Abby learns from her mistakes. She learns about the emptiness of vengeance. She learns to break free of tribalism. She learns that other people matter, even if they're perceived as your enemies. In order to save Yara, Abby must conquer her vertigo in a truly standout scene with a memorable exchange about the unexpected benefit of fear.
Can I give you some advice?
Oh my god.
Just think about the good parts to fear.
The good parts?
Yeah, like you run faster. You're more focused.
Oh, fuck.
You don't feel pain as much. Every bad feeling, your palms sweating, your heart racing, they're all signs you're actually stronger. So when you feel afraid, you should think about how your body is getting ready for what's coming. Only when weak may I carry my true strength.
She also has to battle the Rat King, the most monstrous enemy in the game. Yes, I hear you. Man's the real monster. We get it. She has to conquer all this to save some little Scar girl she never even knew about until a day ago. Her world changes thanks to Lev and Yara. They are her reason for continuing. They are her community, especially after her real love Owen, along with his baby mama, are killed by somebody. Abby doesn't owe the WLF her ongoing allegiance. Neither do Lev or Yara owe the Scars, because they're going to start their own tribe.
Those were your fucking people. Hey, you're my people.
The point of Abby's personal journey is a process of empathy. It's easy to shoot wolf soldiers or Scars when you merely see them as obstacles needing to be cleared for the next stage. It's another when they scream in agony or cry out for their loved ones in grief or in terror. It's like, I didn't know that guy's name was Brian. I didn't know anyone would mourn his loss. He was just pixels before. Oh no. I feel regret. That's the problem of tribalism. It demands you strip away the complexity and humanity from others. But real life isn't that simple. Every person is the main character in their own story. Abby can continue the cycle of vengeance, but chooses to walk away. She understands that life is more important than death, and that people are more important than one's sense of getting even. She grows from her experiences, whereas Ellie painfully does not. Let's do one last comparison. Person A loses a loved one violently, swears vengeance, tracks down the culprit, gets friends killed, seeks out vengeance yet again, even at the cost of losing remaining loved ones. Person B loses loved one violently, swears vengeance, tracks down the culprit, gets friends killed, has the choice to continue the cycle of vengeance but turns away, begins a new life with a loved one. It seems pretty obvious to me which character would be described closer to the hero. That's not to say heroes must be completely virtuous or villains completely irredeemable. Last of Us does a fantastic job of showcasing the amazing complexity of human beings. We are all capable of doing selfless and selfish acts. We could all become Joel or Abby under the right circumstances. They're us. That's what makes playing their story so thrilling and engrossing. The characters feel alive. So I understand why many could turn a blind eye to the objectively damning consequences of Joel's actions. He may not be your villain, but from the outside, he is seen as such. And I understand why many will never get through their initial hatred of Abby, and no amount of clarifying context will dull that hate. She might never be your idea of a hero, but looking at her journey as self and breaking free from the cycle of vengeance, she sure seems like the closest thing the series has to a hero. R.I.P. Jesse. You're too good for us. Well, folks, there you have it. That's why I believe that Joel is really the villain and Abby's really the hero. The other thing I want to stress as this essay comes to a close is that these labels are not important in a complex world. It's a matter of perspective, after all. Thanks for watching, guys.